Welcome to the Aquatics Life, the aquatic spotlight of the daily Parks and Rec show. From swimming and water safety to aquatic fitness and recreation, we explore the people, programs, and ideas making waves in communities everywhere. Hosted by Wesley King, every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is the Aquatics Life, where recreation meets the water. In this episode, Wesley King and Chris Stevenson discuss leadership, workplace culture, and building stronger teams to create safer, more impactful aquatics programs and communities.
Hello, everybody. It's the Aquatics Life with Wesley King. You'll notice my good friend Craig LeBlanc is putting me through the ringer here and letting me do the show opening by myself. So I appreciate that. But we've got a great guest with us. Chris Stevenson from the Empower Group is going to be here with us talking about culture and leadership. And that's very exciting because we need that now in Parks and Rec. But before we get into that, I want to recap a few things from the last few weeks. Aquatics, safety, service. If you've been paying attention, all your pools are probably open today. They may have opened Memorial Day weekend. Maybe you had some on and off shifts over the last week or two. Schools are out. I know today's my kids' last day of school, and your pool is going to be open this weekend. So whether you're managing it, whether you put your team in place, a few quick highlights from making sure our guards have what they need, making sure our emergency action plan is in place, making sure our communication is there, making sure we have great customer service. So some quick highlights for the Aquatic Life. Now, very excited to share a couple updates before we get to our commercial and our guest about the Daily Parks and Rec media show and the things we're doing. As you guys may or may not know, we've got a bunch of great shows happening. And if I was better prepared, I'd have the screen set up. Jovi, I would have had you set up with our new image and our new picture that shows all of the wonderful shows we have, including the Leadership Series with Craig LeBlanc himself that I was a guest on a few days ago. Our Youth Sports Mastery Show with Aaron Locks, who is a world of wisdom. That's on Thursday afternoons, right at this time slot. And if you are a manager of soccer, basketball, there it is. This is why Jovi's the best, folks. So now you can see what we're talking about. If you're listening on Spotify, great. Don't pull over and take a peek. But when you get to YouTube and you're on Facebook and LinkedIn, check this image out. So real quick, we'll go through. We've got something for everybody every day. As I told Chris, our guest, if you think of ESPN, and you turn on ESPN, or every hour there's something different. Well, that's the same here, right? So on Mondays, we've got our Smart Parks Forward show and our Park and Tech Collective show. So if you're into technology, which my future guest, Chris Engler, will be in a few weeks, Mondays are your day. Tuesdays, we've got On the Front Line with John Prue. That's your MWR, your military Parks and Rec. And I know he's had some great guests talking about the value of the military parks and recreation within this country and servicing our members and making sure that everybody has a place to go that is comfortable and that is supportive as they travel in the military. Wednesdays are getting more full. Beatrice has her new show with Arts in the Park. So whether you're Bob Ross and a painter, whether you're a dancer, that show's for you. It really organizes and collects the art of Parks and Recreation and what goes in what is art, right? It's not just one thing. Plus, we have the Rec Room with Thomas White talking about all of our recreation and green spaces. And stick with me here. We're getting to Thursday now. Aaron Locke says, and then our Young Professional Network. So if you're within your first 1 to 5 years of Park and Recreation, this goes for you Thursday afternoon. On Friday, again, I got to give my shout out to my Michael Strahan twin, the director of Pepper Social Club for the almost retired, 7 days away from retiring, Jonathan Papa J. Skinner. That's a great show, great information there. Of course, humble plug, as he would say, for the Aquatics Life, which you're listening to now. And for those of you that are wondering what that leadership series is at the first bar, that's Craig LeBlanc show every day, every week, bringing on a special guest talking about leadership in Parks and Recreation. So while that was way too fast, you do have the visual. This is being recorded. Jovi, in just a second, we'll go to the commercial. We'll come back with Chris Stevenson, our wonderful guest, to talk about leadership, creating great teams, his history, some awesome stories he's had about how he started his career as a superhero, and now he's brought himself towards being the keynote speaker of a major conference. So, Joe, if you go to commercial, we'll come back with Chris, and thank you, everybody.
It's not just water. It's responsibility. It's leadership. It's not just drowning prevention or water safety. It's life. And every day, aquatics professionals make decisions that save lives. Because aquatics is more than swim lessons. It's community. It's creativity. It's impact. For over 30 years, aquatics hasn't just been my profession. It's been my life. I've seen the challenges, the pressure, the grind, but I've also seen the power of great leadership and what happens when communities come together. This is where education meets entertainment, where real conversations happen, where aquatics professionals come together to learn, lead, and grow. Because aquatics should bring people together. This is Aquatics Life, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
Okay, and don't worry, I will get to our outdoor link shout outs and other shout outs before the next commercial break. Look at me, Craig. I'm getting it. All right, Chris Stevenson, thank you for being here. Welcome to the Aquatics Life, a longtime fitness and training professional, personal training professional, but a lot more than that. Tell us about yourself, and happy to have you.
Well, first of all, Wes, thanks for having me. And I have to say that I'm somewhat familiar with the program, but even watching those commercials, what you all do with you and Craig and the rest of the team to provide valuable information all the time. Like, I can't believe the amount of valuable content. So kudos to you for giving back to the industry. I think that's absolutely amazing. It's just
absolutely
baffling.
And those pictures are of me as a child. And yes, God bless my mother for digging them up. So thank you. A lot of hard work went into that. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'll give you the quickest version of my background possible, and feel free to ask clarifying questions. But so I grew up in Ohio. I was a competitive martial artist my whole life, all through high school and college. So because I was a competitive athlete, I was running a martial arts studio and I was training other competitors. It was one of those things that I didn't have what you would consider your typical fun college experience. I mean, I had a great time in college, but so after college, I thought I'm going to move somewhere warm. So I picked California, and I'm going to screw around for a couple of years, just have fun, get a job waiting tables, and kind of let loose a little bit. And I want to say I was very successful at that. So
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. I don't know if my mom was proud, but I was a waiter at Fridays. And as you get to know me, you'll like, it depends how you feel about Fridays. I was either awesome or annoying, but I had the suspenders and the flair. And
you were in the flair.
Oh,
I've seen Office Space. Don't go movie quotes on me. I've seen Office Space.
I was that guy. But I was still training because I was a martial artist. So I was working out and, at a couple different gyms. And I happened to meet some people, because, you're in Los Angeles, that were in the stunt industry. And I was putting my suspenders on for a shift one day, and I got a phone call, and my buddy said, "Hey, we just lost a performer. We've got a year-long tour of North America. Is there any way you can come down and audition?" So I was like, I don't know. I've never auditioned before. So I went down, and it was terrible. I had no idea what I was doing, but they were so desperate that they hired me. And that was for the children's show Power Rangers. So, so we started a year-long tour of North America, literally toured all over for 15 years, Make-A-Wish Foundation, hospital visits, all sorts of appearances. And it was just an incredible experience. So, after doing Power Rangers, I ended up working on some other movies and television shows as well. But that was kind of an unstable business, right? You'd work a lot and then there was nothing. Plus, I was getting really physically beat up, because you can imagine with stunts,
It did give me immediate street cred with my son when I told him you were my guest today. That's not why you're here, but when he's like, well, he was the one always getting beat up. I was like, yep, he was one behind the mask, kiddo. Sorry, but keep going. Yeah, to your point.
What's funny is, and my children are older. I have a freshman in college and a junior in high school. But there is a Power Ranger appreciation curve for my children. So when they're really young, it's high. They love it.
Yeah.
And then in like through middle school, high school, they're like, this is so embarrassing, Dad. Then all of a sudden in college, he's like, Dad, send me pictures. My roommates don't believe it. My fraternity brothers. So it's back to the appreciation level.
I hear you.
So, but during that process, I decided I got to do something else as well. This is going to run its course. So I started personal training and I started teaching group exercise classes and kind of fell in love with the fitness industry. So quick version, I worked at a commercial, privately owned club for a while. Then worked clinically at an injury rehab center and trained athletes, and then decided I was going to be an entrepreneur and open up my own facility. So I opened up a small training-only facility, and then we were fairly successful there. Then had the opportunity, was approached by an investment group who said, are you interested in opening a full-service club? So from there, we opened up a full-service club. So we ran these two clubs for almost 20 years, and throughout that process, had some success, especially in the area of leadership and customer experience. Those were what we hung our hat on. Much like aquatics, everybody has a pool, right? Everybody's got lessons, everybody's got classes. But if you can make it an experience where people feel safe and seen and enjoy it, you're going to be the place that everybody wants to go. And because of that, started getting, again, invited to speak at conferences. Then you speak at a conference and somebody says, can you train my staff? And I'm like, sure. And then you start getting can you help us with our organization? And I was like, sure. So I joke that I always started consulting by accident.
Sure.
And then took it more seriously. Then we had the opportunity to exit the brick and mortar space right before COVID in California. And we had built up a good consulting practice. So we made that transition. And that's what got us to where we are today.
The Empower Group, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of teased it, and people listening, and part of having you on here is to kind of answer the question, why would somebody who doesn't live in the aquatic world be here? And that's why is traveling in all these conferences. I've seen you speak. We spoke about Ruby Newell. We've spoken about other great leaders that we look up to. And one of the things that I think the aquatics will greatly benefit from is this type of conversation, is exposing our industry leaders who are also in charge of other things, right? As you well know, in Parks and Recreation, you might have the name recreation director, but underneath that comes a basketball court and a pool and a golf course, and things. Or your name says aquatic director, and with that comes childcare and massage and all the other things.
Yep.
You spend so much time on safety and so much time on CPR and so much time on teaching good swim lessons. I wanted to have you here for this type of conversation is how do we take those skill sets and apply leadership, or take some of the things you're going to talk about and spin it in? So that's my first real question. How did you bridge that gap from the personal training and the activities of running a club to then make it relevant to all the other people in a fitness center that aren't just doing training and aren't just about fitness? How did you bridge that gap?
So I have to tell you one quick thing. So our club did not have a pool. I did work throughout my career at facilities that had pools, but one of our clients that we worked with for a long time, a year ago, had a pool. And I actually flew up every week to Northern California to be on site. We were helping turn this facility around. And it was my first experience really being immersed with the facility.
Oh, I should have started there. Tell me more.
Oh, man. Like, talk about having an appreciation for the maintenance, the safety, the managing all of the different users. From these children just want to have free swim. And then we've got lessons. And then we've got the serious swimmers. And then we've got the aqua fitness classes.
Don't get my hair wet.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I will tell you that the world that you live in, out of everything, happens to be one of the most challenging situations to be in, because there are so many moving parts, so many different users. So kudos to you and all that you provide, because it is a crazy, crazy difficult to manage. But I think when done well, it is one of the most rewarding things that we have to offer.
That's the back end, my friend. And again, to your point, we'll get to my question in a second, but to just really hit home on that, that's why people in aquatics do it, is the reward. I mean, I have goosebumps now, and it is when you see a kid learn how to swim, it's a little different than when the kid that kicks the ball in the soccer ball. No offense to the soccer ball people, so please don't send me your letters. But when I see a family doing something that they couldn't do in another environment, it does hit home. And so, but being able to provide those, it requires great leadership. It requires a great culture. So, and if we're not listening to the people talking to us, we're going to do our own thing. And so a lot of times aquatics is separated. So you saw a pool a year ago in an environment, but knew immediately there's got to be some connection. We've got to have some support over here so that people aren't on an island.
Yep. Yeah. It's a different beast for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, with aquatics and leadership in general, culture matters. And I think oftentimes culture is thrown around as a buzzword, and people fill out forms that are like, let's create a mission, vision, values, and there's no substance behind it. So I really think when taken seriously and when it's done properly and really thought through, creating a mission, vision, values that you as a leader then instill into your staff, I think that's the fundamental starting point. And as a leader, in aquatics, we deal with a lot of seasonal and part-time employees, right?
Yes,
so the first thing I always tell other leaders is, I said this during a presentation once and everybody's jaw dropped. And then I explained what I was talking about. But I said, I don't hire part-time people. And you can imagine aquatics people.
We have a whole part-time division. What do you mean you don't have part-time people? Yeah.
And I said, I hire great people who believe in what we do, who just happen to work different amounts of hours.
I love it.
And that mindset shift, when a team member knows that you've hired, they no longer just feel like a part-timer making a couple bucks, on the side, or a summer employee who's just going to, save up a little money over the summer, right? They feel like a part of the team, and those words matter. So I think as a leader, I think that's one thing you should always think in your head. We hire great people. They just work different hours, but everybody is equally important and has to be dialed into the culture. And the other thing as a leader too, with these roles, and I can't remember what book, so I apologize that I had read this concept in, but there are three sort of things when it comes to work. There is a job, a career, and a calling. A job, you go and get paid. A career is something where you're always looking, what's next, what's next, what's next. A calling is something that you believe in what you're doing. And that's what we want to strive for, especially with part-timers and with seasonal employees, because this may be a temporary stop in their journey, right? So we want to make sure that this is a calling. And again, we do that by creating strong mission, vision, values, and instilling that when we onboard these teams or when we do orientations with these teams. And I think that ties directly also into purpose. You might ask a lifeguard, what's your job? Well, I watch the pool. But what do you really do? Bingo. Right? Or you teach a swim lesson. Oh, I teach kids to swim. But what do you really do? And reminding these people that, no, you don't. You create environments where people can learn to swim so that they can have fun and they feel safe and parents are relaxed. So we talk about the real purpose about what they do, because that makes it more of a calling. And when even, younger staff and part-time staff and seasonal staff, when they see things have purpose beyond the job title, they're more engaged because they know what they do matters, and it matters in a bigger picture. So I think, again, it can be sort of nebulous and it can be sort of, I guess, cheesy when you hear like, oh, culture and mission, vision, values, but done correctly and infused by a leader and driving your purpose into all of your team members, right? Then you're creating environments where everybody's on the same page and things work.
Spot on. And again, this is why you're here, and this is why I follow you and I believe in what you're saying. One of the stories that makes me think of is the Chicago Bears coach, Ben Johnson. When he first did his chant, good, better, best, never let it, right? The players openly stated that they weren't sure. Is this guy for real? Major Caleb Williams, all these players. Then week 3, week 4, week 5, until he takes his shirt off. And you can see in the background, and Caleb Williams just been on, he's named the Madden player of the cover. And so he's been talking about this, Caleb Williams.
Which means, by the way, he's going to get injured.
I know. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sorry about that. But
Bears had their year. I'm good for 10 more years. But you're right. So, but he talks about the picture of Ben Johnson taking his shirt off, and not Ben Johnson, but the faces of the people behind him, because they did what you just talked about. Maybe at first they're like, what's his slogan? Maybe at first, what's this mission, vision, value? And I have a question about that in a minute. Maybe it's, why is he lifting weights so much? But then Ben Johnson timed it right. So he didn't rush it, right? He didn't pull his shirt off on week 1, but also he let that culture mean something. And so that's my follow-up question. You talk about mission, vision, values, and you reel it off very quickly. I've been a part of multiple companies. As a consultant, I've helped people write them. I've also been asked to follow them. How do you make them real? How do you make them livable where they're just not words on a wall? Hard question,
So that is a great question. And I've heard the term, it's not what's written on the walls, it's what happens in the halls, right? So
I
it's
like
about
that.
action. So to make it very tangible, we at our club, our second club that we owned, our vision, and I know, by the way, there are different vision statement, mission statement. Some people go about it a little differently. I'll share how we did it. Our vision was our big, never-ending like thing we were trying to accomplish, right? So it was empowering people to live healthier lives. Then our mission, how do we do that, was everybody leaves feeling better than when they arrived. Because we knew that if you came in and when you left, you felt better for having been there, you will come back. Thus, you will be empowered to live a healthier life. And then our core values were build, do, play, make, grow, right? So it was build real relationships.
Go ahead. Yep.
Build real relationships.
That's it. Yep.
Do what others won't, play like a championship team, make our community better, and grow through constant learning. So first thing is making sure that you you don't onboard somebody or do an orientation with your seasonal staff and say, hey, remember these. You tell them, what does this look like in practice? Then as a leader, Wesley, you do a great job with managing a difficult session in the pool. And I would come up and say, you know what, that was tough. You handled it well. And you made sure everybody left feeling better than when they arrived. So we're reinforcing
that. Keep going.
Yes. Make it part of your evaluations, right? How did you honor the mission, vision, value? So it's not just what was your punctuality and your appearance and your attitude, right? I mean, for me, if you're late and your appearance sucks and your attitude sucks, you don't work for me, right? So evaluate what matters. And then I think one of the biggest keys is leading by example. Now, this won't really translate, but I'll share it with you. Sometimes when I present on leadership and I talk about leading by example, I'll do this drill where I tell everyone to raise their hand and I say, put your thumb and your finger together, make a circle, stare at that circle. And I say, bring it towards your face, keep staring, keep the pressure. Now put it right here on your chin, right? And I put it on my cheek, and most of the audience puts it on their cheek. And I'm like, I said chin. And the bottom line is your staff is going to see or do what they see you do, not what you say to do. So it is essential as a leader that you are leading by example at all times. And then one sort of last thing is a good friend of mine in the commercial fitness industry. His name's Brent Darden, mentor of mine, wonderful guy. He's from Texas and he is very Texan. And he told me one time, he goes, Chris, leadership is about stagecoach. And of course I thought because he's from Texas, this was some sort of Texas reference, but it wasn't. He goes, as a leader, you're always on stage, meaning everybody's watching you, your staff at all times. So you have to lead by example, and you're always coaching. When you see the behaviors, you're either celebrating them or you're correcting them, in a positive way, you're correcting them. So that stagecoach mentality was something that's like, it's funny when I talk to him about that, I of course come back to my office at the club and I put it up on the wall, and my business partner, who was my general manager at the time, was like, now what? What is a stagecoach? And I was like, listen, you're always on stage. You always coach. She's like, okay, good.
We do a fishbowl, and I had people roll my eyes at me when in 2002, I worked for a JCC and met the woman who I'm now married to with children now. And I was told we live in a fishbowl. We are the fish.
Yeah.
The people eyes are this. And to your point of the coaching part is if you put a big fish with a small fish in a fishbowl, the big fish is going to eat the little fish. Right. If our audience watches the big fish, that's the manager, that's the supervisor, eat or attack the little fish, every child sees that. When you're walking in, a little child wants to have the swim lesson, but you're yelling at your lifeguard, how can you then give them a good swim lesson? You didn't see them see you do this, but it's all windows, baby. It's the only place you can go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I say, and it's intent versus impact. And I'll share a very tangible example.
Please.
Years ago, I was teaching a class, and it's funny. I loved teaching classes. I don't anymore. I'm too old. But even when I had my club and I was the owner, right? I was a hands-on operator, engaging with members. I'm like, I'm going to teach one class a week because it's fun. It gets me in front of members. But there was one where it was a light bulb moment for me, to your point of intent versus impact. I was talking to a friend of mine who I knew really well, and I made a joke, and I was like, I've seen better. Like, this is not, come on. Like, she laughed, and it was funny. But we had 2 new potential members who were taking that class as a trial who thought, wow, this guy is not respectful. Right. So to your point, the eyes are on you. You always have to be just hyper aware, because even when you mean something with the right intent, it might have the wrong impact if people don't know. So again, the fact that eyes are on you, your staff, your members, your patrons, it's so essential that you behave appropriately and that you're leading by example.
It is. And to help our showrunner, Jovi, we'll go to a commercial in just a minute. You may know a guy named Scott Chavanik. He was very in the Parks and Rec world, Scott Chavanik group. He did a lot of public speaking. He would go into fitness centers and do blind audits. and he would take his book and turn it upside down and walk around the fitness floor and read like a reading book and just sit on a piece of equipment and just wait to see, not if somebody would observe, engage with him, but if they would notice his book was upside down. Then, Chris, he'd bring a bigger book. Then he'd bring a bigger book. And I saw him bring a children's coloring book, a children's big book upside down on an adult fitness floor, just hoping somebody would come and notice, not the children's book, but that it's upside down, because he was trying to prove that point. And he would tell, hey, you can't tell anybody I'm doing this, Wes. I was like, you kind of stick out like a sore thumb. He goes, you would think I would stick out like a sore thumb. But he, in a soft, subtle way, proving that. And it's a hard lesson to learn in aquatics. It's a hard lesson to learn anywhere in recreation. But it is a lesson I think you've taught well, and that you have to go through. But it's a lesson to remind him. So, Jovi, I'm going to read off here some amazing things about our sponsors. We'll go to commercial break. Chris will come back. We'll talk more about your group, maybe athletic business, and a couple other things. So bear with me here. But first, big shout out to Outdoor Link. Outdoor Link helps connect outdoor brands with parks and recreation spaces through smart and location-based advertising, making it easier for communities to discover and enjoy the outdoors while supporting the spaces we all love. That's Dave Ramirez, and that's his company, and his show is amazing. Definitely check him out. And also, we want to recognize the National Academy of Athletics. That's with Aaron Locks and his show and his massive network. And they specialize in youth sports programming, offering camps, leagues, and training experiences that will help kids build skills and confidence and character, all while partnering with local parks and rec departments. And no, I don't care that I read it, because I want to get it right, because these are good people doing good things. So to that point, Jovi, we'll let you take over, run our great commercials, and we'll come back with Chris and talk more about the Empower Group and some great things he's got coming up.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
Oh, this is why I'm so grateful for Jovi. I'm a big fan of Stephen Colbert, and sadly he's not with the show anymore, but he always would say, and Jim would go right to the video. I hope to get there someday. Speaking of people that have had long careers, one thing I want to talk to you about, Chris, and really get your take on is, in aquatics, there is some dynamic of, I've been doing this a long time and this is my way. Whether it's the pump room or programs. And there's the dynamic of, I'm new school, I'm young, I'm hungry, I'm Wes King 30 years ago, etc. Whether it's aquatics or otherwise, how do you balance your leadership strategy with somebody who, I know what I'm doing, versus somebody who, I'm young and hungry, and there's that kind of maybe not so much collective, but contrast? How do you work through that?
So I think that's a great question. And I think it fundamentally starts with, and I've seen both in my career and my organizations and organizations I work with. And they're two very different situations. One, let's start with the person who's been doing this forever and now you want to make change. And we hear that a lot, right? All of a sudden, we're going to make some changes. And they're like, I've been doing this forever this way and it's worked. You got to first of all
worked. That's the big key. Sorry, cut you off. They think it's worked. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, and that's the key. They think it's worked, right? Because just because something is working doesn't mean it's efficient as possible or that it's evolving. In the world we live in now, we got to see around corners because things change so fast. If we really want to be successful organizations, we can't be reactive. We've got to be proactive. So I think in that particular situation, one thing I found to be effective, provided this person can change, and I don't advocate for just firing people willy-nilly, right? Sure. I believe in giving people all the tools to where if you do have to part ways with somebody, you could confidently say to yourself, I did everything I could. This really just truly isn't a good fit. But I always let them do a lot of the talking in the situation, right? So I'll say, tell me more about this. And I let them explain it to themselves. Actually, and it's related, but one thing that's interesting is, and I'm sure you've seen this with all the organizations that you work with and consult for, all of a sudden you come in to consult and you've got these casual organizations that are like, oh, well, it's going to be all corporate now. So when you hear that, I'm like, tell me what corporate means. And I make them say it. Half the time they're like,
define it for me.
Yeah. They're like, well, I'm like, wait, like being here on time or having accurate tracking protocols or making sure that our safety protocols are done properly, all of those things. So I let them,
I got to log into this system and I got to type up this report. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but I think with those established leaders, if they really are a culture fit, and I love the term, by the way, culture add, culture fit was a term they've used forever, but it's not that you fit the culture. It's you're actually going to add to this culture. If they're that person, they're right for the organization, let them talk, give them the credit. Don't ever disrespect their experience, even if it's not right, and solve the problems together. So tell me what you would do here. Or, okay, I hear what you're saying. What about this approach? How do you think this might be different or might create those benefits? But I like letting them solve their own problems and talk through things together because it's very hard for somebody who's done a great job and has a lot of experience and never really had any issues. And you're like, okay, we're changing stuff. Right. So
I have failed many times with that approach. Yes.
Yeah. No, same. Yeah. By the way, it's funny. You sit here and I get the chance to talk to you and this has been an awesome conversation. And it sounds, because as a presenter, you're like, and everything I've ever done has been perfect. No mistakes. Oh, trust me. I have learned more from the dumb mistakes I have made. I'm just sharing the wins, right? But I mean, oh my gosh, some of the story, maybe this is
I've been left out of
an athletic business when we hang out and share the stories of like falling on our face. But flipping to the other leader, here's the problem sometimes with new leaders. I think there's two fundamental problems. People get promoted to leadership based on being great at a job, not because they're great leaders. So what you have to, if you understand that, you realize I actually have to train them how to be leaders. So I think that's the number one sort of mindset you have to have going in. And as a total fitness example, you always take your best personal trainer and say, okay, you're going to run the personal training department.
You're the manager now. Yes.
Right. Or I'm sure with aquatics, right? Your best swim instructor. Let's go ahead and run it. And they fail, right? Because first of all, they don't want to, but second of all, they're being promoted because they're a great swim instructor. Doesn't mean they can run a department. So always having that mindset as a leader. So you understand that you've got to give them the training tools to actually learn how to lead. I think the other big challenge is oftentimes when a peer then goes into a leadership role with all these other people that they were at the same level, it's very challenging, right? So all of a sudden,
overnight sometimes.
Yeah, we were homies, and now you're my boss, and I have to listen to you. So that's another challenge that requires a lot of training. And in that, just from kind of a high level view, I always say, listen, be transparent. Just say, hey, I know it might be a little strange. We were here, but I want to work with you. I'm working for you. I'm here to help you grow, and I'm always open to feedback. And I think in all leadership, in both those scenarios, being open to feedback is crucial. And the one thing about feedback, remember, there are 3 things you can do: act on it, compromise, like, oh, I can kind of do that, or not do it, but then have the chance to engage and explain why you can't do it. Right. So you've got that seasoned veteran who wants to do, you want to do something different in the pump room. And they're like, hey, I really want to do it this way. And I say, I hear you and I can see where you might think that's good, but here's logistically why we can't. Or, okay, I hear you. We could shift this a little bit and work on that. Or it's a great idea. So just remember that with feedback. Some leaders I've had leaders who are like, I don't ask for feedback because then I would have to do something. Like, that's the point.
Yes. Yes. And what's funny for our audience is you don't know pump rooms, but you organically, without knowing it, use the most pure example of new school technology, transitioning change, old school leadership, responsible for multiple items of mechanicals and high priority instruments that only I know how to do, that I'm only I certified to do. Mm-hmm. And so again, maybe you didn't know it, but in our world, that's the big challenge, right? We can teach the next generation to teach swim lessons. But when I've got a $4 million business in my pump room and 100,000 gallons, Keith, I call him Keith. My running joke is Keith with the cigarette and the beer belly hanging out. They're all named Keith. They all got a beer belly. They're all geniuses, but you ain't touching their pump room. So I approach my Keith, and my word is good. You said it a few times in your responses. They'll say, what's good? And I'll say, define good.
Right.
Well, we survived. I got some notice. Okay, now how can good move ahead of good? And then I always try to trick them up with, tell me what bad is. And their definition of bad is usually pretty close to mine. Catastrophic, death, fire, flame. And I say, well, look, we both know what bad is. We might disagree on what good is, but we know what better. And then they kind of do what you talked about. They kind of go, oh, well, I mean, I can always do better. Because if I can't do better, then I'm in the position of not being here. But I love what you said about letting them talk more. And I'll just go for a second here. That's a lesson I had to learn and still learning is I'll ask people about being promoted, or I'll want to promote them. And then I will assume that the skill sets I've seen in them will transfer, and I won't correct what I'm seeing. Oh, well, they were great at this, so they're going to be good at that. I've told them they're great at this. I showed them they're great at it, but it never clicked to let them tell me what they're struggling with, what they want to be taught. So again, I think you're spot on for really giving that space for discussion.
Well, and the leadership challenge real quick, I think, is sometimes you're as a leader absolutely right. So sometimes it's frustrating when you're like, oh my gosh, like but to give them a voice, to let them be heard, to ask clarifying questions, you're creating a level of respect and trust so that it makes it easier for you then to hold your ground and say, I hear you, but this is how it has to be. That club that I mentioned with the pool, by the way, our maintenance team, we had 2 full-time maintenance people, and I would say at least 75% of their maintenance work was in the pool, and about 60% of that was in the pump room.
I mean, that's the other thing. And I'll ask you about your business now too, and how you've kind of brought that global and athletic business. But I think that's the thing about our industry is people just see the duck. They don't see the feet, whether it's your world and new fitness equipment and new staff, whether it's my world in a pump room. And I think that's some of the things your company does is it helps bring culture and leadership to light. And so the things that are on the back end aren't so secret anymore and we're not hiding. So I want to give you a real chance to talk about that. How do you integrate those philosophies and so some of those hidden terms and, stuff we don't want to talk about at parties, right? There's my movie reference, and bring it forward so that it's okay to talk about trust and culture in a way that actually hits home. Like I want to talk about a pump room. Tell us about your Empower Group and how you do that.
Well, so the Empower Group in general, we have sort of 3 buckets. One is we speak, breakouts and keynote sessions at conferences. 2, workshops and staff training where we do a lot of leadership development, time management, conflict resolution, communication skills, and then customer experience, which is one of my favorite because I truly believe customer experience is the differentiator for any organization that serves customers. You can distance yourself from the competition by creating this unparalleled experience. That's always been one of my favorites. And then on the strategic advising side, we do everything from, like we've got a rec center that we have been working with for over 2 years, from before they broke ground to helping them select equipment, the design, the SOPs, hiring their key players, creating a pro forma, like those things. Or we just do, like we've done pre-sales for commercial organizations. So we do all sorts of strategic advising as long as it's in our wheelhouse. We do that. But I will tell you, it has to be top down. So I think to your point, like, so, you call us in to your organization and you're like, I want to make these changes. I want to improve leadership and these sort of things. You always got to get the buy-in from whoever's heading up the organization, because there are times like you can go, and there's also two types of organizations. And I hate to say this, but some really are into personal development and they love it and they're all in, and they talk to us prior, and then they, we say, here's how you make this most effective. We do an intake before. Here's the prep work for your staff before this organization. Here's the debrief after. Then there's other who just like, I should probably do some personal education or personal development. And they bring you in, which is fine, but you can tell the first one gets the most out of it. So
I'm not
it's
laughing.
just really, not just saying, oh, train my staff on customer service, but saying, I want our organization to massively improve our levels of customer experience. And then going through that whole process. So what we do, again, is we make sure that the top really does own it, believe in it, and want it, that they have the tools after we leave, because we come in for a day or two, to continue the process and make sure that they've got systems and tools to implement. Because I think that's the key. Again, is it fine just to come in for a one-day workshop? Yes. And your staff will have fun. It's a fun day for them. But if you really want lasting change, again, you got to prep. You got to do an intake. You got to prep for it. You got to participate in the execution of it.
Yes.
Right. So you hear what's being said, and then the post follow-up plan is crucial to making these things stick.
I love that. I do a thing called the dollar dance. To your point of customer service, well, I'll have a stack of $1 bills in my hand, and I will take the aquatic supervisor around the pool deck, and for every name of a member or a pool user they can give me, I give them $1.
That's really good.
Then I'll go to the water aerobics instructor or maybe a member, and I'll say, if you can name the lifeguard sitting over there by name, I'll give you a water bottle. I'll give you a free lunch. And usually what it is, Chris, I call it the cool guy head nod. It's the, oh, that's the guy. I say, I want his name. You can give me a nickname. And so now here's the proof in the pudding. When I come back, if the boss doesn't remember the word dollar dance, or if the team, now maybe they're not doing it perfectly, but to your point, it's that secondary follow-up, right? I love having speakers come in. So talk to us about how you build that out, and so that they know it's not just I'm going to audit you and I'm not going to, how do they really feel engaged? Because you're not there every day. Is there emails? Is there phone calls? Is there virtual check-ins? What's that process like for a client to really get involved on a larger scale?
Yeah, I mean, that's, no matter what, even if we're just doing a 1 or 2 day workshop, I'm very big on, we have to get together before, because although some things are, and I don't like using the term boilerplate, but, customer service, there are certain things that just work, and leadership, there's certain things that just work. Every organization is different. And I've got to have a good understanding of that organization to make sure that the material is best tailored to them. And then again, it's giving them materials to give to their team ahead of time, so the team is fired up and prepared for it. And then always a debrief. Obviously, there are consulting services where if you want to continue long-term, which we have people on retainer that we talk to, once a week on an ongoing basis to reinforce stuff. What is interesting, and just as an example outside of what we do, but we teach 12 customer experience principles, right? Those are 12 experience essentials. We teach it in onboarding. And then we say, now we create a 12-month calendar where you reinforce one skill every month, because you've got to continually reinforce if you want the skills to continually be executed.
Yeah, I love it. I have a program called the Aquatic Hero, hiring, engaging, recruiting, and onboarding. I can come in and do it in 1 day with you, or we can set up a hearing presence, an engaging presence, a recruiting presence, and an onboarding presence, so that there's a process that continues beyond my 8 day. And so I love that breakdown. Transitioning to kind of getting to a little bit more future items here and how I got to know you through Athletic Business. If I'm not mistaken, you, Lou Holtz, God rest his soul, Jesse Cole from the Savannah Bananas, and Magic Johnson all have something in common. Am I correct in that?
You are correct.
Do you want to share with the audience what that is?
I would love to. So I have been speaking for a long time, and I've been shifting. I will always do breakouts because I love them. But I've been doing more and more keynotes. But this year I am, in fact, the keynote for the Athletic Business Show. And it's really special to me. As I was talking to the organization, and I've done work with them in the past, I said, what's really cool about this experience is I was in the seat in the audience for years and saw those great speakers. And now I'm on the other side. So it's just a very cool experience. The keynote is super fun and tactical. That's one thing I always believe with presenting too. You want to be fun and you want to be engaging and you want to entertain, but it's got to be actionable, right? So you've probably seen this in your years of presenting, where sometimes you get a speaker who's really fun and they're a cheerleader and it's great. But at the end, you're like, okay, well, now what? And then you sometimes have the opposite where you're like, the technical knowledge was like spot on, but you're like, but I was so bored, I didn't retain anything. So, my goal in general, but especially for this athletic business show, is to I've put together a session that is going to combine stories that you'll remember, that will help you morph both professionally.
Tease.
Yeah.
Just describe to the audience for, I call him Uncle Nate out there in my podcast, but for my brother and those, because again, I truly believe that the park and recreation industry can cross over with athletic business, and of course, medical fitness is included in that in a couple areas. But for the audience here listening that maybe only knows NRPA or maybe only knows WWA, which are more aquatic things, can you help describe what athletic business is so that if anybody's interested in it, because I would contest there's a ton of stuff at ABC and MFA that is really lined up with Parks and Recs. Can you help the audience understand that?
Yeah, great question. So, it's funny, in Park and Rec, pure Park and Rec, the NRPA is obviously the event, and it's amazing. I mean, tens of thousands of people, an overwhelmingly huge trade show. It's just absolutely insane. And it's awesome, but it is specific to Park and Rec. On the fitness side, HFA is the big show on the fitness side.
Used to be URSA. For those out there, it used to be URSA.
Yes. And that's all commercial. What athletic business does is it brings both of those groups together. And you've got something for everybody. You've got military, you've got college campuses, you've got aquatics, you've got rec centers, you've got commercial fitness, you've got studios. It's just an amazing sort of melting pot of all of the different industries that come together. And it's fun. It's just one of those fun events.
It really is.
Of all the events I've ever done, it's just fun. You've probably seen this at conferences. Sometimes you can tell whose boss sent them and they would want to be anywhere else. I've never seen that at athletic business. Everybody at athletic business is like pumped to be there. So
and they're with their boss a lot of times, which is another unique thing. And boy, I wish the show host for ABC were here because this is a free plug. But just for the aquatic people out there or the rec people out there listening, I've spoken to athletic business several times, NMFA, and to Chris's point, there is an aquatic track. There is a fitness track. There's a leadership track. And in other conferences, I won't publicly name them, sometimes you only get aquatics or you only get. And so I think this is an opportunity, whether you go or not, whether you do the virtual stuff or not, just having Chris here, if you're in aquatics or recreation, there is so much more out there than what you're in now. And I say that because on the Facebook groups and social media and the interactions I have, a lot of people struggle with what's next. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to ask you too, Chris, about leadership is, but in aquatics specifically, well, I'm stuck at my pool or I just have my basketball and vice versa. They just put a pool underneath me and now I got to learn this thing. Right. But it then makes me forget about why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I'm a good leader. So how do you help those people that are just struggling with the grind, but also are in it for the right reasons, right? How do you kind of help them get over that hurdle?
So another fantastic question. And you were worried about the questions today. You've made this so easy. So thank you. I don't want to be hard on yourself.
I was worried about the opening and not talking too much, but fair enough.
No, you've been fantastic. It's always easy for a guest when the host is smooth, and this has been perfect. So there's the challenge of, and we deal with this with a lot of the organizations we work with. There are two right now that we're working with specifically on leadership and finding the ability to balance in your business versus on your business, which I think is key. And that comes down to time.
Listen up. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Time management. You've got to organize your calendar. Well, what I would recommend, so as a tangible example, for those who are grinding and struggle because you have the big picture ideas and you want to make this happen, but you next thing you know, you are doing something cool, it pulls you out of something. Audit your time. Do a time audit. We'll set out a spreadsheet to people. We'll say, hey, what I want you to do, because what we think we do and we actually do can often be very different. I remember that from my personal trainer days. I would ask somebody doing an intake and I would say, so what's your workout like? And they're like, oh, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I take this class, and Tuesday, Thursday, I go biking. Saturday, I hike. And I'm like, all right, just fill out a journal for the next week. And that next week, They're like, well, Monday my kid had a dentist appointment, so I didn't go. And then Tuesday I was out late Monday night, so I didn't. So really, I only did 2 things last week. So what we think we
It's
do.
like my son at his homework. Sorry, 12-year-olds. I read my 20 pages. Really? Keep going. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of those things where do a real time audit and figure out where and specific. One of our clients right now, we had him do that, and he had a pretty good time blocking he was doing. But literally on his time, he's like, a bird got into the facility, and it took me an hour to get the bird out of the facility. So that took away from his time. So, figuring that out. And then once you get there, managing your time to where you do have that uninterrupted time, sometimes off-site, right? Because, I know as a leader, when I would work at my health club, soon as someone knocked, no matter what I was trying to accomplish, I'm like, what? You can't help that as a leader, right? So making it easier by just going off-site and having dedicated time to work on these things, and then delegating, using the old Eisenhower matrix, right? Urgent and important, not urgent, not important, that matrix, and figuring out what are these things that I can delegate so I can focus my time on the really important stuff.
I love that. I used to have a couple things in my office. One was a picture of a bird or a dog. And I would make the staff, is this a bird's eye view thing? Is this something we cannot handle right now? And so it made them come in prepared with that. And if they couldn't tell me, I said, I'm not listening to whatever it is until you can point to, because if it's a dog thing, I have to get up now and I have to go do it. But if it's a bird thing, we can just sit and chat. So it helps that perspective. The other thing is I had a big sign up in my office that it said JFZ, big letters, judge free zone, like huge. In the bottom right-hand corner, Chris, in very small letters, it said, until you're not. And the staff that knew me would just know to point to the bottom corner and shut the door. But the point was it established what you're talking about. It established perimeters. It established framework. It established time. When they came in and said birds or dogs, I knew immediately what I was going to have to do. The last trick I'll give away on the time audit, which I love that phrase, time cop. Jean-Claude Van Damme drink.
Oh, yeah.
But is when do you start your aquatics calendar? Fitness is year-round, potentially. Aquatics might not be. So and this is a free tip, my aquatics calendar always starts the Sunday before the Super Bowl. Here's why. You ran membership clubs. What's in January? You're selling memberships, right? All of January. Well, the Sunday before the Super Bowl isn't then. There are no national vacations or holidays. My Chicago Bears won't be playing that week because nobody plays the Sunday before the Super Bowl, right? And it allows me to look backwards and forwards, right? Even if I'm in the middle of an indoor season, it's February 3rd. I'm probably not destroyed. And if I'm an outdoor season, it starts me clicking the calendar. So again, to your point, time audit, to picking a day, to having phrases of reference, I think what you're establishing is no matter where you're doing this, you've got to be able to take a step back and go, is my time being used accurately? Is my time, and then the delegating. I know we only have a few more minutes and I got a couple of things, but delegating is hard in aquatics, Chris. It's so hard. It's hard everywhere. How do you help people personally or as an organization come to the grips with the fact that you are better off sharing? No man is an island. I know it's not easy and it's not an easy question, but it's not an easy thing to do either.
It's trust. It's trust in your staff. And then it's also clarity in what you're delegating. And I think that's where something is often missed is leaders and communication and clarity. Because if you're going to delegate something, you know it. So to be very simple, if you were to say, clean the pump room, like if you did that normally yourself, it would be meticulous and you'd have it. If you were to tell me, go clean the pump room, I probably wouldn't do it to your level. And then you'd be disappointed, feel like you're the only one who can do it. I'd feel disappointed because I felt like I cleaned it. I felt like I did what you asked. I always think of my son and his dirty bedroom. And if I go, hey, go clean your room, he would emerge in 60 seconds and be like,
yes.
And I'm like, I know. And then I go in and I'm like, this is all you did was stack the plates that have accumulated and kick your clothes under the bed and whatever. But I wasn't clear. I didn't say, here's what my expectations are. All the dishes go down to the kitchen. All your dirty clothes go in the hamper and that goes to the laundry room. So I think, to delegate effectively, it's clarity, as specific as possible so that the expectations are known between both parties. And then the follow-up, not waiting till it's done, but checking in throughout the process and staying on top of it. And then always offering support. How can I help you? Because people don't like to be micromanaged, and they feel great when you trust them with something that you normally do. So it's just good all the way around.
I so appreciate that. I've gotten pretty good at telling people when I would ask them to do something, here's the thing that I screwed up with the most. When my boss asked me to do this thing, and I used to not tell people that because I was ashamed of it, because it was something silly, a plug-in, a switch. And then my boss would, hey, Wes, you forgot this thing. So what I've done to do is reverse it and now say, when I was taught to do this thing, this is where Wes screwed up. It might not be where you screw up because you're different than me. And then they started laughing. You forgot to flip the switch. I was like, brother, I get calls at 2 a.m. But also, I didn't have technology. I didn't have these resources. So I try to really, I say meet them where they're at while being a get off my lawn guy, but try to really bridge that gap and go, look, I've been through this. I've scrubbed this toilet. I've messed this chemical up. This kid has slipped off my bench before too. And I'm certain there's things outside of aquatics that you've gone through like that and have had to express without falling over your own feet a few times.
Of course. And I think, the other thing with like yourself or myself or many of the listeners that are dialed in right now, we're leaders. We're type A. We're aggressive. We're go-getters. But what we got to understand is sometimes it's just small steps. And if you're like the worst delegator in the world, create some small steps. What's the first small thing I can delegate till I get comfortable with it? And next thing you know, if you start to build those habits up, you become an excellent delegator 6 months down the road. So not everything is about massive change right away. It's that Kaizen, that small steps approach to improvement, because that tends to create habits that last. And it can be, and you're not overwhelming your staff either.
That reminds me of, I don't know if Quint Studer, Good to Great and Hardwiring Excellence. He wrote all these books for hospitals, and I used to work at the medical fitness facility. He would always talk about your pillars of excellence and introducing them individually. And so I do that a lot with our even safety teams. If you're going to be involved in an emergency and it's going to happen, all I need you to do is X. I don't need you to do Y and Z. But again, it's with all these principles and we get frustrated. I think it's just so wonderful having you here. And again, Jovi will end up in just a minute, but I want to give Chris the last opportunity to talk about leadership and culture. But going back all the way to the beginning of this conversation, even getting to know you before we talked, I think that's something people can remind themselves of is A, you were there before. B, no one died. Right. So on the scope of things, now how do we take a step back and meet somewhere in the middle of what can I get better at today? What can I improve on today? So that's my last question for you is, Chris, how do you go about day to day versus week to week versus big picture? How do you and your team, even yourself, really hone in that? Because I think you're great at it and I just want to pick your brain.
So I'll go back to what we started with. We talked about the importance of culture, and it has to be authentic, and it has to be real, and it has to be lived, right? It can't just be words that you've written on a piece of paper. It's got to be lived. And what's really interesting is, and I'm getting to know you better, we've connected over the years, but now I feel like we actually really know each other based on some of our phone calls. When you gave some of your examples throughout this, you talked about the posters that you would have in your office or your, what was it, the dog and the bird?
Bird's eye, dog's eye view. Yeah.
Those don't work unless you believe it and you live it. And that's what you do. There are plenty of bosses, there are plenty of leaders that have motivational posters or sayings or whatever, but they don't do it. They really don't believe it. It just feels cool to add to their emails or whatever. Yeah. So all of this has to just be authentic for any of it to work. So again, it was just a really great example of like all the tactics that you shared, you firmly believe in, you live by them, you do them, you've used them with your teams and they matter and they have an impact. And that's what makes those things so successful. It's not about words. It's not about phrases. It's not about acronyms. It's about implementing, acting on them, and truly infusing them into your teams. But as far as improvement goes, I do think it is that small steps approach. We tend to bite off more than we can chew, and then we fail, and then we're down on ourselves. So what I would do is look at the areas for improvement, and I would pick one small step. One of my colleagues that I used to do work with, his name was Robert Maurer, and he wrote a book on Kaizen. And the thing in the book was a funny chapter, but he talked about flossing your teeth. And he's like, if you want to floss your teeth as a habit, floss one tooth. Just floss one tooth. You always have time for one tooth. There is no excuse to never have time for one tooth. And next thing you know, you automatically floss a tooth, add a second tooth. Now, I don't think that's going to go over real well with your hygiene and the people you're interacting with. But he's using that extreme analogy, of just what is that one habit as a leader you could add in where you're like, no matter what, I can always do this starting right now. And it's 4 to 6 weeks to develop a habit. So if you were to, I always tell people, if you were to add one leadership habit that you just worked on for a month, you would be a completely different leader in 1 year. Right. So that's what my recommendation would be, is just what matters most, what moves the needle, what's the biggest ROI, what's that change you need to make, break it into a small part, and just habitually every 4 to 6 weeks, add a new change. And again, a year, I even talk about that with, when I used to train with health and fitness, I'm like, what if you just, instead of changing your diet tomorrow, right? Like, okay, all you're going to eat is chicken and broccoli. No. What if you just said, I'm going to have 1 serving of fruit a day? That's your habit. After 1 month, now I'm going to cut sodas or whatever it is, right? If you just build those habits, you're a totally different person in 1 year. So I think to all the leaders listening right now, you don't have to take it all on at once. You're already doing a ton. We talked about in versus on, and you're grinding and you're trying to lead your teams. Think about what you can do as a leader to improve. Pick those small things and work on them, and just over time, implement those small changes, because a bunch of small changes eventually add up to massive change.
Absolutely. The future, as I stole this from, so one thing, 90s movies are my jam, 90s movies, comedy. So anybody that works with me, and I'll use this movie quote from a Kurt Russell movie called Touchback. The future is just a bunch of what you do right now strung together.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a bunch of decisions right now put together. That's the future. So, Chris, on that point, I just can't thank you enough. Jovi, we'll get out of here in just a second, but I really appreciate you. Where can people find you? What's the website? How do they get a hold of you if they want more information?
You got it. First of all, my pleasure. It's fun. We've talked to each other for so many years, so it's finally cool to really do something where we can offer some information to an audience. So this has been incredible. My email is chris@tegfirm.com. That's the Empower Group, tegfirm.com. You can always shoot me an email. I'm always happy to answer questions when I can. The website is tegfirm.com, chris@tegfirm.com. And then on all the social platforms, just search Chris Stevenson. Instagram, I am the Chris Stevenson, not from a pretentious standpoint, because Chris Stevenson apparently is a very common name. So it was either the Chris Stevenson or Chris Stevenson, like 28749. So I thought the Chris Stevenson, although sounds slightly pretentious, was easier to remember. So
you have well earned it. There are some that would not have, but you have. So you're totally entitled. So,
and the Instagram, you'll see some Power Ranger stuff. I have a Power Ranger highlight. So if that's if that's your big takeaway, and I'm okay with that, there's some Power Ranger highlights on that on my Instagram.
And He-Man is coming out this weekend. My son and I are going to go see it.
Yeah, so I heard. Very excited. It looks like it's going to be perfectly good, bad.
Can't be
knows
enough.
Who it is. It's gonna, yes. I think it's gonna be excellent.
I'm in. This has been great. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Jovi will close out with our final promotion ad, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Wes.
All right.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.